Greetings, everyone. I'm sitting in my peace corner. This is where I come when I need peace. And I'm inviting you to this space right now. Let us talk. And let's keep things real. Let's keep it 100, as they like to say. Let me ask a question. If you borrow somebody's money, you're expected to repay. Even if you don't repay, you're expected to repay. You have entered in an agreement with somebody. And a lot of time when you enter in this agreement, there's an expectation that you will carry out your end of the bargain. Either you're repaying or you're providing a service. And I can say to you that it's very clear that the leaders in Jamaica have entered into an agreement and they're expected to pay. And don't worry, they often make plans or deals and they carry out their end. It often has nothing to do with the people of the country, but the leaders, enter into these arrangements. I'm going to say here, a lot of us are talking about what we see happening, what's unfolding. And, you kind of hear people want to tell the people to go and stand up and defend their rights. But I'm going to say that while that should always be someone's right to defend their liberty, I'm telling you, a lot of innocent persons are going to get hurt. Because when you are protesting and you're saying, this is my freedom and this is my right, those who don't want you to have those freedoms or those rights have no problem using extreme violence upon you. So in a time like this, people can't be afraid if they stand up. And if they're standing up, they have to be prepared to deal with the consequences. So whatever it is that you're protesting against or whatever it is you're demanding, you know that I am prepared, or at least you have to say to yourself, I'm prepared to lose something to gain this thing that I'm fighting for. We're seeing, as I said in my past video, where you have some political figurehead telling people that if they do what they're asked to do, then they can get water. I thought that was one of the most disturbing things I ever heard. And when I heard it on someone's channel, I had to ask if I really heard right. The people are held hostage with all these days when they're told they can't move around. And then I see pop up today, 1,700, not 17, but 1,700 persons came in on a cruise ship. And they say there are all these protocols. So let's just say that the protocols are adhered by according to them. Let's just say for a moment, what is the difference with these people that come in the island and those who live on the island? Because there are many of the people on the island who have taken that joke. So if they have taken that joke, then where is the differentiation for the ones who did take the joke and the ones who didn't? Because if the ones who come into the country are allowed because they have taken that joke, and therefore have freedom, as is the case in some places in the world where people do that, now you're hearing, okay, we're relaxing the rules for you. What about the ones from Jamaica that did it? Why are they locked down too? Because you're locking down everybody because you're saying you're causing problems and you're making this thing get worse. So the ones who come in the island with this thing can then walk freely to come into this space and to enjoy themselves. Why are the ones who got it not able to go free? This thing has nothing to do with concern for the well-being of the nation, because everyone is bundled up. Everyone that comes from Jamaica or live in the island. You see, the longer this is drawn out and dragged along, the more we're getting to see what is at play. You see that, when you frustrate people and you take away their natural rights and you take away the things that are beneficial to their well-being and their health and all that stuff, people break. They're hoping that people are going to break, but they might be surprised in the ways in which they might break. The unfortunate thing about it is, we know that there are individuals who are not afraid to use brute force upon the people. And I think people are very angry with Jamaicans right now, saying, why are you allowing them to violate you? But you see, little people speak out, and you see what happened to some of them. Everybody's not brave. Not everyone has a heart of steel. In fact, if everybody or the majority of any nation had people who are out there and saying, we are not afraid to die, then you wouldn't have anybody taking liberty or controlling them in ways that is not beneficial, at least unproductive, I wanted to say. We see what this is about, and it's always been about that. And I think I spend a lot of time in quiet contemplation, always asking the same question. I want to stop asking it, but I always say, what does this mean? Like, where are you? Where were you when this, that, and the other happened? This is when you're on your surface growing spiritually. You ask these questions. Why is this allowed to happen? Where were you when this and that is happening? This is what you're saying when you're seeking answers and you're delving deep into your spirituality. I've stopped asking some of these questions because I realize at this time that if these things don't happen, if these things are not allowed to happen, we really wouldn't get to see exactly what we're dealing with. We wouldn't get to see the traitors in our midst. We wouldn't get to see the lies as they unfold. We wouldn't understand where we stand in the eyes of man. We wouldn't get to see history and realize that the things of the past are still quite present here, and the more things change, the more they remain the same. We wouldn't get to understand that, as human beings, we're not valuable to a lot of people. Well, not even a lot of people, but people who have the control and the power, who use their power to do evil. You don't matter. And if you try to protest, because these ones with money, they're saying to themselves that their wealth give them authority over you. Their sovereign right is very important. Yours is nothing. But we gave them that opportunity, because if people had the strength to say, who are you? And no, those are very powerful words. Then they would understand that, listen, you are 60 persons in a party, and there are 2 million people in a country. The systematic kind of indoctrination, not to mention the different agencies that are used to break you. That no wonder education is not pushed and promoted in certain parts of the world, because they can't afford to have a majority of people educated. Are you serious? If you're able to educate them, you're not going to be able to control them or rule them. They can't think for themselves. They need you to think for them. And this is not a new thing. If you go back to all the philosophers of the past, when they are giving, examples or ideas to leaders around the world, how to control persons using religion, using politics, using money. And so we're expecting the people to get up and act intelligent when a lot of them didn't even go to school. And if they did go to school, their education is limited. and then they have been brainwashed. You expect them to automatically come out of that brainwash. You know, they have had all kinds of inequality leveled on them. The only good thing is the Jamaicans that have left home, they have had access to all kinds of experiences and all kinds of education, and they are using social media to enlighten the people, because sometimes the people just don't know better. You see, they're so used to these guys. They used to call them the big heads. I think they still call them big heads. They are really big heads, to be honest with you. Big heads with nothing inside, like empty shell. Although some of them are wise in ways that are not beneficial to you. And so they plot and they scheme and they do all kinds of stuff, and they're dishonest, and you know, they get away with it. But the worst part of it is the way they underestimate people. They insult people's intelligence because over time they have done the same thing and they got away with it, but now they're not. As soon as they open their mouth and, you know, nonsense comes out of it, somebody's there to correct them. So in that way, it's a good thing. These 1,700 persons that came into the island in a time when there's actually lockdown and the people cannot move is a clear sign of that man's promise that he was going to make the place wealthy, and he was appealing to those who did not come from the shores of Jamaica. And he did say, may I remind you, that he was going to return the country to the time of Henry Morgan. They said, do you remember? That was one of the most disturbing things I ever heard. And he kept his promise. That's why I say any lies people, you know, attribute to this man. He never lied about those things. I don't even think he lies. He clearly shows that his interest and his plans must go through. He has taken people's money. The man is playing the fence. And so the people, if they were patient, would not get too frustrated, because it's going to backfire. Because you're playing over here and you're playing these ones over here, and in the long run you're going to play yourself, because that's what's going to happen. But let's not kid ourselves. It's going to get ugly, because when these guys are pressured to deliver, and they're being pressured by the people in the country, trust me, it will be brute force, and they're going to take it out on the people. So the people have to be prepared. I mean, they will crack, because these pressures that are being leveled against the people, and when the shortage of food and those food that are available are overpriced, and the people cannot bear hunger and the stress anymore, of course it's going to break. They're going to break. And I am sorry to say, many of them will lose their lives. But if you look at history, you realize that there are some nations that said you have to sacrifice a few to save the large group. And, you know, in the process of saving the world, many lives are lost. It's not a new thing. It isn't. It's not a new thing. That's the philosophy of people. So don't think that when you plead to their conscience, they have no conscience. They don't even see you or hear you. They have stuffed something in their ear, break it off in their ear. They don't see the plight of the poor. And if you are someone who wants to highlight the wickedness, you are a target. Remember that. And so you have to go armed and hammed up and ready with your guides You can't do it alone. They're not doing it alone. See, this is why I always say to people, tell me more about what it is you believe in. What is your worship about? Or, I'm curious. I'm always curious about people's spiritual beliefs and see how it's working for them. I don't want to preach the hell and destruction. It's nice to stay positive, but we have to be realistic too. And so when we ask the persons to go out there and stand up to these ones, by right, they really should. But they shouldn't go out there without understanding the nature of what they're about to do and the repercussions thereof. When you take people's money and you make promises, expect them to collect. And so the Americas and all the other folks who have contributed to our society and have paid with any expectation, they will and must collect. Stay blessed.